Hey, what's up guys, it's Mark Yoon, and today I'm bringing another hopefully exciting video. So today is Thursday, and we're going to be continuing our talk about Soulcalibur 6 and its creation engine that we have been on this week. And today is going to be a little bit different. I just wanted to talk about the modes in Soulcalibur 6 and the modes that are omitted from prior games and how they could be implemented back in there. So in every Soulcalibur game, there's been extra single-player modes that actually give you something to do besides the main story. Even in 5, as short as that story mode was, there was that card-based battle mode where you would play against randomly generated characters and characters that people actually created online. It was kind of like an endless battle mode. There was even characters that were created by other team developers, like the developer for Tekken, Harada. He was actually in the game as a character that he created for himself, and you actually got a trophy for beating him. And it was pretty fun, and I put the most hours probably into that mode outside of the base fighting friends and stuff like that. But that still was like a far cry from games that we've had in the past. Soulcalibur 3, for example, was probably the best example of having extra things to do for single player outside of battling people. And that mostly being dedicated towards Chronicles of the Sword. Now, we always have like classic arcade mode where you can pick your character and get the endings by going through the battles. But Chronicles of the Sword, as I've talked about before on my channel, was a very immersive battle program where you would create your character and then you would go through these missions by meeting other people and joining them to your team and going against other like teams pretty much. And the story wasn't like crazy good, but it was immersive enough when you created your own characters and they interacted with you that it was your Soulcalibur story. So basically you would have different classes of characters and they would go to different strongholds for the enemy and they would attack that stronghold until it was destroyed, and there was sometimes enemies inside that you would have to battle, or sometimes they could just come at you from across the road. And there were also like really nice Easter eggs where there were hidden parts of the level where you would have like very high level characters from the actual story mode. Like let's say you ran into like Astaroth, and that took a lot of skill to overcome them because they were like usually much higher level than you. Overall, like that was probably my favorite addition that we've had to Soulcalibur as far as modes go. 2 was also up there with its Labyrinth mode. I believe the Labyrinth mode is like the only way that you can actually come across Night Terror in Soulcalibur 2. And it was pretty fun to try and figure out like which choices to make and which decisions to like branch off from to where you can get to Night Terror. Now you can just look up guides online, but back then it was pretty much trial and error. Because if you wanted to play something back then and find something out, the internet wasn't really a thing yet, so like you pretty much had to buy like a strategy guide, like a physical strategy guide, or just try and figure it out yourself with trial and error. So I mean that was part of the fun back in PS2 days though, in my opinion. Obviously Soul Edge and Soulcalibur didn't really have any modes outside of arcade and story because they were like the fledgling first parts of the series, so we can expect obviously a jump to 2, which is what we got with the Labyrinth. Now there's a lot of different modes that are also spread amongst these games, and I know that like a lot of people are going to say, oh, you forgot about this one or whatever, but I just wanted to give an example based on what we got in Soulcalibur 6, which was Libra of the Souls. Now a lot of people like Libra, and also people don't like Libra. I personally haven't even finished Libra. I found it dredged on a little bit boringly. I might go back to try and finish it, but it was pretty much if you like slam together Chronicles of the Sword and Labyrinth mode. We wanted something like Chronicles of the Sword. That's what everyone was saying before the game came out. We heard that Libra was going to be a thing where you created a character and like did a story and went around and whatever. That's literally what came to mind for most of us. But what we got was a very watered down version that didn't really have much in the way of story to do with anything, and you would just come across characters that some of my subscribers talked about yesterday. Came across characters that had like battle pieces and stuff that you can't even unlock in the game, which was incredibly annoying. It was fun for what it was, but I didn't see myself going back to play it as the game aged, and I kind of forgot that it's there because every time I go in there, I'm usually just going into story especially for like a new DLC character, except for the guests, obviously. And I guess my main gripe with this is that it doesn't mean, I mean, like, our expectations were too high for the mode, so it's kind of on us that we pictured something in our head before we got what we got, so we had no real way to kind of compare and contrast. But this just leads to my whole point about Soulcalibur 6 as a whole, is that it feels like a lesser version of games that came prior to it. We had, like, a lot of epicness in the past with this series, and this one just feels like, as they call it, a reboot. It just feels like their, I guess, attempt at making up for 5, which I like 5, and I especially like the new edition characters that they put in there. I wasn't really a big fan of Patroclus or his sister, but I was a huge fan of Zwei and Viola. They were just like really good character additions, I believe. It's not just Soulcalibur. I've noticed this generation has gone more towards just esports and not necessarily taking the time to add single player modes in. Just like in Tekken, they had that like Devil Within mode where you can like run around as any character, and it was kind of like a beat 'em up, and characters would drop stuff and you can customize your character. It was pretty fun. This time they don't have anything like that outside the regular story, but they added back bowling that you had to like pay for, and bowling's not even 2-player online. It's only couch versus, which was a very strange decision to make in my opinion, especially for a mode that actually costs money. But with that being said, and like the current trends as they're going just across the industry in general, it was just a little disappointing that Soulcalibur 6 came out the way it had. So if we're talking about all of the stuff that we've been talking about recently, it's got a lack of modes. Libra of Souls was disappointing. The character creator feels like it hasn't changed at all. The very few new things that they added actually don't make much sense. It is a good character creator for its own right, but there are definitely better ones out there, which we'll probably get into more on Friday, tomorrow's community video, because a lot of you guys gave me like great ideas and options in the comments that I'll be reading. And besides that, we had like awesome games like 2 and 3. I think like 2 and 3 were the shining light of the series. Like I like 4, but it was kind of weird with like the whole Star Wars thing. I'm not gonna lie. I know it was cross promotion with The Force Unleashed, but it was kind of out of place in my opinion. It almost felt like Mortal Kombat 8, that Mortal Kombat vs. DC game, where it's just like a game that's part of the main series, but didn't really feel like part of the main series, if you know what I mean. It was just like the lore in it was weird, and it kind of like threw everything in different directions that like we didn't expect it to go in. But with that being said, guys, I want to turn the question over to you, and tell me what your favorite mode in Soulcalibur games past was, what you expected Libra of the Souls to actually be. Are you happy with Libra of the Souls? And do you hope that in the next game they initiate some kind of extra single-player content that we can actually utilize that'll be, I guess, reminiscent of games past, as opposed to the more recent terrain they've been dredging across, which is just like bare minimum stuff. And I don't mean to sound too negative when it comes to this game. I do like this game. I still play it a lot, but it's just like I had higher expectations for it since it's been so long since 5 came out. And I hope there is a Soulcalibur 7. And if there is a Soulcalibur 7, I hope they take these things to heart and they actually take the time to develop it and not rush it. And Project Soul is actually given a decent enough budget that they can work with this time around and not rely on the DLC to sell most of the things that were supposed to be in the game already. But just answer all those questions in the comment section down below, guys. Look forward to the community video tomorrow. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate all the comments I've been getting on my channel. It's because of you guys that the channel is growing, so obviously I appreciate you, and thanks so much. And as always, peace.